Thank you for pressing play. Your presence here brings joy to my heart. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of PlayStation Portable. We hope you find it enlightening. The PlayStation Portable PSP is a handheld game console developed and marketed by Sony Computer Entertainment. It was first released in Japan on December 12, 2004, in North America on March 24, 2005, and in PAL regions on September 1, 2005, and is the first handheld installment in the PlayStation line of consoles. As a seventh-generation console, the PSP competed with the Nintendo DS. Development of the PSP was announced during E2003, and the console was unveiled at a Sony press conference on May 11, 2004. The system was the most powerful portable console at the time of its introduction, and was the first viable competitor to Nintendo's handheld consoles after many challenges such as Nokia's N-Gage had failed. The advanced graphics capabilities made it a popular mobile entertainment device, which could connect to the PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 3, any computer with a USB interface, other PSP systems, and the Internet. The PSP also had a vast array of multimedia features such as video playback, audio playback, and has been considered a portable media player as well. The PSP is the only handheld console to use an optical disc format, in this case, Universal Media Disc as its primary storage medium. Both games and movies have been released on the format. The PSP was received positively by critics, and sold over 80 million units during its 10-year lifetime. Several models of the console were released before the PSP line was succeeded by the PlayStation Vita, released in Japan first in 2011 and worldwide a year later. The Vita has backward compatibility with PSP games that were released on the PlayStation Network through the PlayStation Store, which became the main method of purchasing PSP games after Sony shut down access to the store from the PSP on March 31, 2016. Hardware shipments of the PSP ended worldwide in 2014. Production of ended when the last Japanese factory producing them closed in late 2016. Moving ahead, let's uncover the hidden gems within history and discover their significance. Sony Computer Entertainment first announced development of the PlayStation Portable at a press conference preceding E2003. Although samples were not presented, Sony released extensive technical details. CEO Ken Kutaragi called the device the Walkman of the 21st century, a reference to the console's multimedia capabilities. Several gaming websites were impressed with the handheld's computing capabilities, and looked forward to its potential as a gaming platform. In the years, Nintendo had dominated the handheld market since launching its Game Boy in 1989. Experiencing close competition only from Sega's Game Gear and Bandai's WonderSwan 1999-2001 and WonderSwan Color in Japan. In January 1999, Sony had released the briefly successful Pocket Station in Japan as its first foray into the handheld gaming market. The SNK Neo Geo Pocket and Nokia's N-Gage also failed to cut into Nintendo's share. According to an IDC analyst in 2004, the PSP was the first legitimate competitor to Nintendo's dominance in the handheld market. The first concept images of the PSP appeared at a Sony corporate strategy meeting in November 2003, and featured a model with flat buttons and no analog joystick. Although some reviewers expressed concern about the lack of an analog stick, these fears were allayed when the PSP was officially unveiled at the Sony press conference during E2004. Sony released a list of 99 developer companies that pledged support for the new handheld. Several game demos such as Konami's Metal Gear Acid and Studio Liverpool's Wipeout Pure were also shown at the conference. The development posed several challenges for Sony and third-party developers, with battery life being a primary concern. To address this, Sony implemented power management strategies, including restricting the CPU to two-thirds of its full speed for the first few years. The Universal Media Disc UMD drive was another significant hurdle, as it drained the battery and had slow read speeds. Developers had to optimize their game data layout to minimize disk access and reduce power consumption. These limitations sometimes led to performance constraints and long loading times, with some titles like WWE SmackDown vs. Raw 2006 experiencing load times of up to 2 minutes for certain scenes. Now, let's dig deeper into launch and unveil the hidden treasures it holds within. On October 18, 2004, Sony announced that the PSP base model would be launched in Japan on December 11 that year for About Us in 2004, while the value system would launch for About Us. The launch was a success, with over 200,000 units sold on the first day of sales. Color variations were sold in bundle packs that cost around $200. On February 3, 2005, Sony announced that the PSP would be released in North America on March 24 in one configuration for an MSRP of circa. Some commentators expressed concern over the high price, which was almost as higher than that of the Japanese model and over $100 higher than the Nintendo DS. Despite these concerns, the North American launch was a success. Sony said 500,000 units were sold in the first 2 days of sales, though it was also reported that this figure was below expectations. The PSP was originally intended to have a simultaneous PAL and North American launch, but on March 15, 2005, Sony announced that the PAL launch would be delayed due to high demand for the console in Japan and North America. The next month, Sony announced that the PSP would be launched in the PAL region on September 1, 2005. Sony defended the high price by saying North American consumers had to pay local sales taxes and that the value-added tax sales tax was higher in the UK than the US. Despite the high price, the PAL launch was a success, with the console selling over 185,000 units in the UK. All stock of the PSP in the UK sold out within 3 hours of its launch, more than doubling the previous first-day sales record of 87,000 units set by the Nintendo DS. The system also enjoyed great success in other areas of the PAL region. Over 25,000 units were pre-ordered in Australia and nearly 1 million units were sold across Europe in the system's first week of sales. Brace yourself for an enlightening exploration of hardware as we dive into its profound implications. The PlayStation Portable uses the common bar form factor. The original model measures approximately 6.7 by and weighs 280 g. The front of the console is dominated by the system's 4.3-inch LCD screen, which is capable of 480 to 272 pixel display resolution with 24-bit color, outperforming the Nintendo DS. Also on the unit's front are the 4 iconic PlayStation face buttons, the directional pad, the analog nub, and several other buttons. The system also has 2 shoulder buttons, a USB 2 mini-B port on the top of the console, and a wireless LAN switch and power cable input on the bottom. The back of the PSP features a read-only Universal Media Disc UMD drive for access to movies and games, and a reader compatible with Sony's Memory Stick PRO Duo flash cards is located on the left of the system. Other features include an ear-compatible infrared port. This was discontinued in PSP 2000 and later, and a 2-pin docking connector, built-in stereo speakers and headphone port, an IEEE Wi-Fi for access to the internet, free online multiplayer gaming via PlayStation Network, the ability to purchase games from PlayStation Store now discontinued, and data transfer. The PSP uses 2 333 MHz-based cores as a main CPU and media engine, a GPU running at 166 MHz, and includes 32 MB main RAM, 64 MB on PSP 2000 and later models, and 4 MB embedded DRAM split between the aforementioned GPU and media engine. The hardware was originally forced to run more slowly than it was capable of. Most games ran at 222 MHz. With firmware update 3.5 on May 31, 2007, however, Sony removed this limit and allowed new games to run at 333 MHz. The PSP is powered by an 1800 mAh battery, 1200 mAh on the 2000 and 3000 models, that provides between about 3 and 6 hours of gameplay, between 4 and 5 hours of video playback, or between 8 and 11 hours of audio playback. To make the unit slimmer, the capacity of the battery was reduced from 1800 mAh to 1200 mAh in the PSP 2000 and 3000 models. The original high-capacity batteries work on the newer models, giving increased playing time, though the battery cover does not fit. The batteries take about 1.5 hours to charge and last for between 4.5 and 7 hours, depending on factors such as screen brightness settings, the use of WLAN, and volume levels. In March 2008, Sony released the extended life battery kit in Japan, which included a bulkier 2200 mAh battery with a fitting cover. In Japan, the kit was sold with a specific colored cover matching the many PSP variations available. The North American kit, released in December 2008, was supplied with 2 new covers, one black and one silver. Let's now turn our attention to PSP 2000 and examine its role within the larger context. The PSP 2000, marketed in PAL countries as the PSP Slim, is the first redesign of the PlayStation Portable. The PSP 2000 system is slimmer and lighter than the original PSP, reduced from 23 to and from 9.87 to. At E2007, Sony released information about a slimmer and lighter version for the device, which was first released in Hong Kong on August 30, 2007, in Europe on, in North America on, in South Korea on, and in Australia on. The UK release for the PSP 2000 was September 14. The serial port was modified to accommodate a new video out feature, making it incompatible with older PSP remote controls. On the PSP 2000, games only output to external monitors and televisions in progressive scan mode. Non-game video outputs work in either progressive or interlaced mode. USB charging was introduced and the D-pad was raised in response to complaints of poor performance, and the responsiveness of the buttons was improved. Other changes include improved WLAN modules and microcontroller, and a thinner, brighter LCD screen. To improve the poor loading times of UMD games on the original PSP, the internal memory RAM and flash ROM was doubled from 32 MB to 64 MB, part of which now acting as a cache, also improving the web browser's performance. Let's now shift our focus to PSP 3000 and explore the ways in which it shapes our perspective. In comparison with the PSP 2000, the 3000, marketed in PAL areas as PSP Slim and Light or PSP Bright, has an improved LCD screen with an increased color range, 5 times the contrast ratio, a halved pixel response time, new subpixel structure, and anti-reflective technology to reduce outward glare. The disc tray, logos, and buttons were all redesigned, and a microphone was added. Games could now be output in either component or composite video using the video out cable. One outlet called this model a minor upgrade. The PSP 3000 was released in North America on October 14, 2008, in Japan on, in Europe on, and in Australia on. In its first 4 days on sale in Japan, the PSP 3000 sold over 141,270 units. According to Famitsu, it sold 267,000 units during October. On its release, a problem with interlacing when objects were in motion on the PSP 3000 screen was noticed. Sony announced this problem would not be fixed. Now, let's shift our attention to PSP Go. The PSP Go model PSP was released on October 1, 2009 in North American and European territories, and on October 31 in Japan. It was revealed prior to earned through Sony's Cree Video on Demand service. Its design is significantly different from other PSP models. The unit is 43% lighter and 56% smaller than the original PSP 1000, and 16% lighter and 35% smaller than the PSP 3000. Its rechargeable battery is not intended to be removed by the user. It has a 3.8 in 480 to 172 pixel LCD screen, which slides up to reveal the main controls. The overall shape and sliding mechanism are similar to those of Sony's MILO-COM2 internet device. The PSP Go features a Wi-Fi like its predecessors, although the USB port was replaced with a proprietary connector. A compatible cable that connects to other devices' USB ports is included with the unit. The new multi-use connector allows video and sound output with the same connector using an optional composite or component AV cable. As with previous models, Sony also offers a cradle PSP in for charging, video out, and USB data transfer on the PSP Go. This model adds support for Bluetooth connectivity, which enables the playing of games using a 6-axis or DualShock 3 controller. The use of the cradle with the controller allows players to use the PSP Go as a portable device and as a console, although the output is not upscaled. PlayStation 1 games can be played in full screen using the accompanying cable or the cradle. The PSP Go lacks a UMD drive, and instead has 16 GB of internal flash memory, which can be extended by up to 32 GB with the use of a memory stick micro. Games must be downloaded from the PlayStation Store. The removal of the UMD drive effectively region locks the unit because it must be linked to a single, region-locked PlayStation Network account. While the PSP Go can download games to itself, users can also download and transfer games to the device from a PlayStation 3 console or the Windows-based software MediaGo. All downloadable PSP and PlayStation games available for older PSP models are compatible with the PSP Go. Sony confirmed that almost all UMD-based PSP games released after October 1, 2009 would be available to download, and that most older UMD-only games would also be downloadable. In February 2010, it was reported that Sony might relaunch the PSP Go due to the lack of consumer interest and poor sales. In June 2010, Sony began bundling the console with 10 free downloadable games. The same offer was made available in Australia in July. 3 free games for the PSP Go were offered in America. In October that year, Sony announced it would reduce the price of the unit. On April 20, 2011, the manufacturer announced that the PSP Go would be discontinued outside of North America so it could concentrate on the PlayStation Vita. In this chapter, we'll be unraveling the enigma of PSP Street E and discovering its transformative power. It Street E, the PSP-E, which was announced at Gamescom 2011, is a budget-focused model that was released across the PAL region on October 26 of that year. The E lacks Wi-Fi capability and has a matte finish similar to that of the slim PlayStation 3. It has a monaural speaker instead of the previous model's stereo speakers and lacks a microphone. This model also lacked the physical brightness buttons from the front of the handheld, instead offering brightness controls in the system software's power save settings menu. An ice white version was released in PAL territories on July 20, 2012. With our foundation established, it's time to explore bundles and colors and its relevance to our overarching theme. The PSP was sold in 4 main configurations. The base pack, called the Core Pack in North America, contained the console, a battery, and an AC adapter. This version was available at launch in Japan and was released later in North America and Europe. Many limited editions of the PSP were bundled with accessories, games, or movies. The first 2 initial releases of the Slims in North America were both on September 10, 2007, with a Daxter PSP. Included with the bundle was an Ice Silver PSP with a Daxter UMD, the Family Guy, Freaking Sweet collection, and a 1 GB memory stick for usage. The other was a piano back-only PSP. Limited edition models were first released in Japan on September 12, 2007, North America and Europe on September 5, in Australia on September 12, and in the UK on October 26. The PSP 2000 was made available in piano black, ceramic white, ice silver, mint green, fuchsia blue, lavender purple, deep red, matte bronze, metallic blue, and rose pink as standard colors. Several special edition consoles were colored and finished to sell with certain games, including Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII Ice Silver engraved, Star Ocean, First Departure Felicia Blue engraved, Gundam Red Gloss Matte Black, and Monster Hunter Freedom Gold silk-screened in Japan, Star Wars Darth Vader silk-screened, and God of War, Chains of Olympus Kratos silk-screened in North America, The Simpsons bright yellow with white buttons, analog and disc tray in Australia and New Zealand, and Spider-Man Red Gloss Matte Black in Europe. The PSP 3000 was made available in piano black, pearl white, mystic silver, radiant red, vibrant blue, spirited green, blossom pink, turquoise green, and lilac purple for standard colors. For limited edition colors were Big Boss pack of Metal Gear Solid, Peace Walker had a camouflage pattern, while the God of War, Ghost of Sparta bundle pack included a black and red two-tone PSP. The Dissidia 12 Final Fantasy Cosmos and Chaos edition that was released on March 3, 2011, has an mono artwork as the PSP's faceplate. In the next segment, we'll be exploring comparison and its implications for our subject matter. Below is a comparison of the different PlayStation Portable models. Let's now turn our attention to system software and examine its role within a larger context. The PSP runs a custom operating system referred to as the system software, which can be updated over the internet or by loading an update from a memory stick or UMD. Sony offers no method for downgrading such software. While system software updates can be used with consoles from any region, Sony recommends only downloading updates released for the model's region. System software updates have added many features, including a web browser, Adobe Flash support, additional codecs for various media, PlayStation Trips connectivity, and patches against security exploits and the execution of homeable programs. The most recent version, numbered 6.61, was released on January 15, 2015. Now, let's shift our perspective and explore web browser from a different angle. The PSP Internet Browser is a version of the NetFront browser and came with the system via the 2 update. The browser supports most common web technologies, such as HTTP cookies, forms, CSS, and basic JavaScript. It features basic tabbed browsing and has a maximum of 3 tabs. Turning our focus to Remote Play, let's explore its key elements. Remote Play allows the PSP to access many of the features of the PlayStation 3 console from a remote location using the WLAN capabilities, a home network, or the Internet. Using Remote Play, users can view photographs, listen to music, and watch videos stored on the PS or connected USB devices. Remote Play also allows the PS to be turned on and off remotely and lets the PSP control audio playback from the PS to a home theater system. Although most of the PS capabilities are accessible with Remote Play, playback of TIFFs, Blu-ray discs, PlayStation games, PlayStation 2 games, most PS games, and copy-protected files stored on the hard drive are not supported. Get ready to immerse yourself in the world of VoIP access as we examine its impact and relevance. Starting with System Software version 3.9, the PSP 2000, 3000, and Go could use the Skype VoIP service. Due to hardware constraints, it was not possible to use the service on the PSP 1000. The service allowed Skype calls to be made over Wi-Fi and on the go over the Bluetooth modem. Users had to purchase Skype credit to make telephone calls. Skype for PlayStation Portable was discontinued on June 22, 2016. Moving on to the next segment, we have room for PlayStation Portable. At Tokyo Game Show 2009, Sony announced that a service similar to PlayStation Home, the PS online community-based service, was being developed for the PSP. Named Room Stylized Room, it was being beta tested in Japan from October 2009 to April 2010. It could be launched directly from the PlayStation Network section of the XMB. As in-home, PSP owners would have been able to invite other PSP owners into their rooms to enjoy real-time communication. Development of Room halted on 2010 due to feedback from the community. As we transition to the next segment, let's unravel the mysteries surrounding SENSM application and gain a fresh perspective. The SENSM software, which had already existed on some Walkman music players and Sony Ericsson handsets, was added to the PSP through a software update in 2009. It is a music analyzer that reads music files stored on the PSP and categorizes them into channels representing moods and creates automatic playlists from it. The PSP has support for the playback and ATRAC audio files, as well as WMA since firmware version 2.6. Our focus now turns to digital comics reader, an important aspect of our discussion. Sony partnered with publishers such as Rebellion Developments, Disney, IDW Publishing, Insomnia Publications, Marvel Comics, and Titan Books to release digitized comics on the PlayStation Store. The digital comics reader application required PSP firmware 6.2. The PlayStation Store's comics section premiered in Japan on 2009, with licensed publishers ASCII Media Works, Enterbrain, Kodokawa, Kodansha, Shueisha, Shogakukan, Square Enix, SoftBank Creative HQ Comics, Accenture, Bandai Visual, Fujimi Shobo, Futabasha, and Bunkasha. It launched in the United States and in English-speaking PAL countries on 2009, though the first issues of Alista Arcane, Astro Boy, movie adaptation, Star Trek, Enterprise Experiment, and Transformers, All Hail Megatron were made available as early as through limited-time PlayStation Network redemption codes. In early 2010, the application was expanded to the German, French, Spanish, and Italian languages. The choice of regional comic reader software is dictated by the firmware region. The Japanese comic reader will not display comics purchased from the European store, and vice versa. Sony shut down the digital comics service in September 2012. As we transition to the next segment, let's unravel the mysteries surrounding X-Radar Portable and gain a fresh perspective. In Japanese markets, an application called X-Radar Portable came preloaded starting with firmware version 6.35 January 2010. This is a portable map software for PCs and mobile phones called X-Radar, developed by Petamap. X-Radar Portable gets the location of the PSP on a map and obtains information of places around the user. It determines the location through place engine technology via wireless LAN spots. With our foundation established, it's time to explore homebrew development and custom firmware and its relevance to our overarching theme. On June 15, 2005, hackers disassembled the code of the PSP and distributed it online. Initially, the modified PSP allowed users to run custom code and a limited amount of protected software, including custom-made PSP applications such as a calculator or file manager. Sony responded to this by repeatedly upgrading the software. Some users were able to unlock the firmware to allow them to run more custom content and DRM-restricted software. Hackers were able to run protected software on the PSP through the creation of ISO loaders that could load copies of UMD games from a memory stick. Custom firmware, including the custom firmware, minimum edition MELM CFW and PROCFW, were commonly seen in PSP systems. Prepare yourself for an in-depth analysis of content management in this section. The management of media content of the PSP through personal computers was fulfilled by Sony's PSP Media Manager software for Windows, allowing transfer as well as music video playback and backups. In 2009, the PSP Media Manager was replaced by MediaGo. Get ready for an exciting part as we dive into games. There were 1,370 games released for the PSP during its 10-year lifespan. Launch games for PSP included Ape Escape, On the Loose, North America, Europe, Japan, Darkstalkers Chronicle, The Chaos Tower North America, Europe, Japan, Dynasty Warriors all regions, Lumines North America, Europe, Japan, Metal Gear Acid North America, Europe, Japan, Need for Speed, Underground Rivals North America, Europe, Japan, NFL Street 2 Unleashed North America, Europe, Ridge Racer North America, Europe, Japan, Spider-Man 2 2004 North America, Europe, Japan, Tiger Woods PGA Tour North America, Europe, Japan, Tony Hawk's Underground 2 Remix North America, Europe, Twisted Metal, Head-On North America, Europe, Untold Legends, Brotherhood of the Blade North America, Europe, Japan, Whiteout Pure All Regions, and World Tour Soccer Challenge Edition North America, Europe. Additionally, Gretzky NHL and NBA were North America exclusive launch titles. The best-selling PSP game is Grand Theft Auto: Liberty City Stories, which sold 8 million copies as of March 2008. Other top-selling PSP games include Grand Theft Auto, Vice City Stories, Monster Hunter Portable 3rd, Gran Turismo, and Monster Hunter Freedom Unite. Retro City Rampage DX, which was released in July 2016, was the final PSP game that was released. The best-rated PSP games on Metacritic are God of War, Ghost of Sparta, Grand Theft Auto, Vice City Stories, and Daxter. Metal Gear Solid: Peace Walker is the only PSP game to receive a perfect score from Fanits. During E2006, Sony Computer Entertainment America announced that the greatest hits range of budget titles were to be extended to the PSP system. On 2006, Sony Computer Entertainment America released the first batch of greatest hits titles. These titles included Ape Escape and The Loose, A TV Off-Road Fury, Blazon Trails, Hot Shots, Open T, Twisted Metal, Head-On, and Whiteout Pure. The PSP Greatest Hits lineup consists of games that have sold 250,000 copies or more and have been released for 9 months. PSP games in this lineup retail for $19.99 each. Downloadable games were limited to 1.8 GB, most likely to guarantee a potential UMD release. A section of the PlayStation Store was dedicated to minis, smaller, cheaper games available as download only. Trophy support was planned for the PSP, but the idea was cancelled after the firmware was cracked. The time has come to unravel the secrets behind demos and emulation and gain a deeper understanding. In late 2004, Sony released a series of PSP demo games, including Duck in Water, Worldable, Harmonic City, and Luga City. Demos for commercial PSP games could be downloaded and booted directly from a memory stick. Demos were sometimes issued in UMD format and mailed out or given to customers at retail outlets. In addition, several older PlayStation games were re-released. These can be played on the PSP using emulation. This feature could be officially accessed through the PlayStation Network service for PlayStation 3, PSP, PlayStation Vita or PlayStation TV, or a personal computer. Emulation of the PSP is well developed. The first emulator was Player by Nokia, which ran on C, then afterwards was JPCSP, which ran on Java. PPSSPP is currently the fastest and most compatible PSP emulator. It supports all major games. Prepare yourself for an in-depth analysis of data installation in this section. In mid-2009, as larger memory stick storage became available for the PSP, the ability to pre-install some or all data from a game became a feature in certain games. Although for a large majority of the games the feature merely improved load times, there were a small number of games that added features such as speech in Metal Gear Solid: Peace Walker. In the upcoming portion, we'll be dissecting peripherals to gain a comprehensive understanding of its implications. Official accessories for the console include an AC adapter, car adapter, headset, headphones with remote control, extended life 2200 mAh battery, battery charger, console carrying case, game carrying case, accessories pouch and cleaning cloth, and system pouch and wrist strap. A SIG television tuner peripheral model PSPs, designed specifically for the PSP 2000, was released in Japan on September 20, 2007. Sony sold a GPS accessory for the PSP 2000. This was released first in Japan and announced for the United States in 2008. It features maps on a UMD and offers driving directions and city guides. A digital camera add-on, the GoCam, was also released. After the discontinuation of PSP, the Chinese electronics company Linking released a PSP to HDMI converter called the LKV8000. The device is compatible with the PSP 2000, PSP 3000 and PSP Go. To overcome the problem of PSP games being displayed in a small window surrounded by a black border, the LKV8000 has a zoom button on the connector. A few other Chinese companies have released clones of this upscaler under different names, like the Palpst. The LKV8000 and its variants have become popular among players and reviewers as the only means of playing and recording PSP gameplay on a large screen. As we transition to the next segment, let's unravel the mysteries surrounding reception and gain a fresh perspective. The PSP received generally positive reviews soon after launch. Most reviewers noted similar strengths and weaknesses. CNET awarded the system 8.5 out of 10 and praised the console's powerful hardware and its multimedia capabilities, but lamented the lack of a guard to cover the screen and the reading surface of UMD cartridges. N-Gage praised the console's design, stating that it is definitely one well-designed, slick little handheld. PC World commended the built-in Wi-Fi capability but criticized the lack of a web browser at launch, and the glare and smudges that resulted from the console's glossy exterior. Most reviewers also praised the console's large, bright viewing screen and its audio and video playback capabilities. In 2008, Time listed the PSP as a gotta-have gadget, citing the console's movie selection, telecommunications capability, and the upcoming GPS functionality. The PlayStation Portable was initially seen as superior to the Nintendo DS when both devices were revealed in early 2004 because of the designer's emphasis on the technical accomplishments of the system. Nintendo of America President Reggie Fils' aim, however, focused on the experience aspect of the Nintendo DS. The DS started to become more popular than the PSP early on because it attracted more third-party developers and appealed more to the casual gaming market. The DS sold more units partly because of its touchscreen and second display. From a multimedia perspective, the PSP has also been seen as a competitor to portable media players, notably the iPod Video that was released in the same year. Reviews of the PSP Go were mixed. It was mainly criticized for its initial pricing, as Technica called it way too expensive, and The Guardian stated that cost was the biggest issue facing the machine. N-Gage said the Go cost only $50 less than the PS, which has a Blu-ray player. Wired said the older PSP 3000 model was cheaper and supports UMS, and IGN stated that the price increase made the PSP Go a hard sell. The placement of the analog stick next to the D-pad was also criticized. Reviewers also commented on the change from a mini USB port to a proprietary port, making hardware and cables bought for previous models incompatible. The Go's screen was positively received by Ars Technica, which called the screen's image brilliant, sharp and clear and stated that pictures and videos look great. The controls received mixed reviews. The Times described them as instantly familiar, whereas CNET and Stuff called the position of the analog stick awkward. The device's capability to use a PS controller was praised by the New Zealand Herald, but Ars Technica criticized the need to connect the controller and the Go to PS for initial setup. As we progress, let's zoom in on sales and examine its role in shaping our overall narrative. Region units sold: first available Japan 19 million as of April 28, 2013, December 12, 2004 United States 17 million as of March 14, 2010 March 24, 2005 Europe 12 million as of May 6, 2008 September 1, 2005 United Kingdom 3.2 million as of January 3, 2009 September 1, 2005 worldwide 76.4 million December 12, 2004. By March 31, 2007, the PlayStation Portable had shipped 25.39 million units worldwide, with 6.92 million in Asia, 9.58 million in North America, and 8.89 million Europe. In Europe, the PSP sold 4 million units in 2006 and 3.1 million in 2007, according to estimates by Electronic Arts. In 2007, the PSP sold units in the US, according to the NPD Group, and 3,022,659 in Japan, according to Enterbrain. In 2008, the PSP sold 3,543,171 units in Japan, according to Enterbrain. In the United States, the PSP had sold 10.47 million units by January 1, 2008, according to the NPD Group. In Japan, during the week 2008, the PSP nearly outsold all of the other game consoles combined, selling 129,986 units, some of which were bundled with Monster Hunter Portable 2nd G, which was the best-selling game in that week, according to Media Create. As of 2008, the PSP had sold 11,078,484 units in Japan, according to Enterbrain. In Europe, the PSP had sold units as of 2008, according to SC Europe. In the United Kingdom, the PSP had sold units as of 2009, according to Chart Track. From 2006 to the third quarter of 2010, the PSP sold 53 million units. In a 2009 interview, Peter Dillon, Sony's senior vice president of marketing, said piracy of video games was leading to lower sales than hoped. Despite being aimed at a different audience, the PSP competed directly with the Nintendo DS. During the last few years of its life cycle, sales of the PSP models started to decrease. Shipments to North America ended in January 2014, later in Europe, and on June 3, 2014, Sony announced sales of the device in Japan would end. Production of the device and sales to the rest of Asia would continue. During its lifetime, the PSP sold 80 million fewer units than the Nintendo DS. Prepare yourself for an in-depth analysis of marketing in this section. In late 2005, Sony said it had hired graffiti artists to spray paint advertisements for the PSP in 7 major US cities, including New York City, Atlanta, Philadelphia, and San Francisco. According to Sony, it was paying businesses and building owners for the right to spray paint their walls. A year later, Sony ran a poster campaign in England. A poster bearing the slogan "Take a running jump here" was removed from a Manchester Piccadilly station tram platform due to concerns it might encourage suicide. Later in 2006, news of a billboard advertisement released in the Netherlands depicting a white woman holding a black woman by the jaw, saying "PlayStation Portable White is coming," spread. 2 similar advertisements existed. One showed the 2 women facing each other on equal footing in fighting stances. The other showed the black woman in a dominant position on top of the white woman. Sony's stated purpose was to contrast the white and black versions of the PSP, but the advertisements were interpreted as being racially charged. These advertisements were never released in the rest of the world and were withdrawn from the Netherlands after the controversy. The advertisement attracted international press coverage. N-Gage said Sony may have hoped to capitalize on a PR firestorm. Sony came under scrutiny online in December 2006 for a guerrilla marketing campaign in which advertisers posed as young bloggers who desperately wanted a PSP. The site was created by advertising firm Zipatoni. At 2010, Sony created a fictional 12-year-old character that was used by Sony Computer Entertainment America as part of their Step Your Game Up advertising campaign for the PlayStation Portable and PSP consoles in North America, as part of the PlayStation's It Only Does Everything advertising campaign. The character, Marcus Rivers, was played by child actor Bobbs J. Thompson. and started as the publicist of the PlayStation Portable division of Sony, responding to Dear PSP queries. Marcus was additionally used to advertise games for the system. The character was eventually discontinued, with the Dear PSP campaign continuing without them. Share this video with your friends and spread the knowledge.